Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2.
We missed him. Is Lori on there? We'll begin starting in about 1 minute. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for being here this morning. The School Board of Duval County School District is now convened in a special board meeting. I wish to extend a warm welcome to everyone present. The Duval County School Board is here to set policy for the district that will improve student achievement and address other business items that require a vote of the board. The management and day-to-day operations of the district are the responsibility of the superintendent. It is not the role of the board to make managerial or operational decisions. The board has policies and procedures in place to assist the superintendent in resolving management and operational issues. As a show of courtesy and respect to each other, we ask that all mobile phones be turned off and that no flash photography be used during this meeting. For those wishing to address the board during our public comment portion of the board meeting, please note that pursuant to board policy, we accepted speaker cards for the published start time for this meeting, which was 9 a.m. We have placed hand sanitizer and disinfectant wipes at the podium, and we ask that each speaker wipe down the podium before addressing the board. I want to thank you for taking your time to join us and for your interest in the operation of the Duval County School District. I'll move on to the approval of our agenda for today, May 23rd, 2024, that the Duval County School Board approved the May 23rd agenda as submitted on May 16th with the following changes. Selection of the candidate for superintendent of schools, item amended. New superintendent contract item added. Current superintendent contract item withdrawn. 1 mil referendum status update item withdrawn. I'll ask for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Vice Chair Joyce, second by Board Member Jones. Are there any comments? Seeing none, I'll call for your vote on the approval of the agenda for May 23rd, 2024. By action, you have approved that agenda 7-0. So as we embark on the task of selecting our next superintendent, this school board stands at the threshold of a decision that will shape the very essence of Duval County Public Schools. The weight of our choice today is not merely administrative, it's a compass directing the course of over 120,000 future students and over 11,000 dedicated staff alike. Charged with the duty of representing the public, we recognize that our deliberations carry the profound responsibility of molding the educational landscape for generations to come. Our words and decisions must be an unwavering commitment to what serves in the best interest of our vibrant community. Board members, let's approach these discussions with minds open, of course, discuss candid and hearts steadfastly focused on the welfare of students and the betterment of our community. Today's meeting will follow 3 distinct steps. 1, we will review the superintendent search process and go through all of those pieces. The school board will discuss and vote, and we will provide an overview of the next steps after our selection is made today. So step 1, I'm going to go through kind of a review of the superintendent search and how we got here today. So in June of 2023, the school board first met with FSBA, Florida School Board Association, to discuss serving as its search consultant. In July and August, the school board met during workshop with FSBA to discuss the timeline, associated activities, and held pre-search detailed discussions. An online community survey was conducted August 14th through September 6th and resulted in 2,399 responses. We held 6 community forums between August and September. Our first advertisements for the superintendent position ran from September 1st through October 13th. During a meeting on October 18th, the board took action to pause the search and re-advertise after January 2024. After additional workshops and discussion, the board re-advertised the position from March 15th through April 15th. 21 applications were received, representing 10 states, with 16 applicants having earned doctoral degrees, 1 current and 7 previous superintendents among the applicants. 6 semifinalists were named on April 23rd. 1 semifinalist withdrew from consideration. Each of the remaining semifinalists subsequently provided answers to written and video questions, which were made available to the public. 2 finalists were interviewed May 13th and 14th, first by the full school board, then in one-on-one interviews. A community focus group also met with the finalists and provided feedback to the school board. A well-attended community meet and greet with the finalists was held on May 14th, and feedback from those interactions was shared with the school board subsequently. Additionally, input was received throughout the week leading up to today's meeting, so that it was a little bit of a timeline. Step 2, we want to discuss, but we also want to hear from the public. This is an opportunity for the public to weigh in. So we're now on to the public comment portion of our agenda. The school board welcomes your comments on matters that are before the board for consideration. It's not the board's intent to respond, but to use the input in our deliberations. To give everyone appropriate respect and courtesy, we ask the audience to refrain from audible comments or applause. When you come to the microphone, please state your name for the record. The board will allocate time for public comment based on the number of speakers who have filled out speaker cards prior to the designated time. If 1 to 20 have signed up, each will be allotted 3 minutes. 21 to 40 will be allotted 2 minutes, and if more than 41 speakers have signed up, each will be allotted 1 minute. Today we have nine speakers, so each will be allotted the 3 minutes. If you're concerned to exceed that time, please present your written comments to the board. Board policy provides for an orderly and efficient meeting without disruptions by words or actions. You're asked to follow expectations for civil discourse and to avoid personal attacks or profane or vulgar language. The chair, or in conjunction with the Office of General Counsel, reserves the right to conclude a speaker's privilege to address the school board if rules regarding civil discourse are violated. We have placed, once again, hand sanitizer and disinfectant wipes at the podium, and we ask that each speaker wipe down the podium before they address the board. Please remember that speaker cards were only accepted to the public until the published start time for this meeting. Once again, we want to thank you for taking your time to address the board. So I'll turn it over to Vice Chair Joyce, and we can start with our public comment.
Very good. Good morning, everyone. Our first speaker this morning is going to be Jack Hung, and Mr. Hung will be followed by Michelle Madison.
Okay, good morning, everyone. First, I want to thank all the board members for your efforts put in. I know there's a lot of work for you to put in to hire superintendent, because this is very important for everybody. I'm an associate professor to teach chemistry. I have more than 10 years of teaching experience. And my daughter is the 12th grader this coming fall. Okay, so first I want to support for the hire of Dr. Chris Bernier. For the following reasons. First, the superintendent must be an educator. So educator must know the mission of education. So for our, as a parent of high schooler, I wanted my daughter to learn, focus on math, reading, a lot of skills like this. So second, educator must know how to accomplish the mission. Not only learn the subjects, but also learn the principles embedded in the learning, such as a merit-based reward system, and discipline of the student behavior, or discipline of the faculty as well. Second, as a superintendent, I want the superintendent to be a protector. School is a place need to be safe. So for some reason, like say, I heard recently for Title IX protection, I know it's mainly designed to protect the ladies. My daughter needs some protection. So right now it seems there are a lot of ideas they allow the biological male to compete in the female sports or go to the female bathroom. I don't feel safe for this. So I want the superintendent to be a protector for all the children in the school. Third, I want the superintendent need to be a fundraiser. Obviously, for the school to run, we have to have enough funding. One of the things I'm thinking is, when I watched the videos for the interview, I heard there are about like 11 or 15% decrease of student population. So we have to regain the trust from the parents, so we can present that as evidence to gain state support for that. The last one is the superintendent need to be a fighter. So to fight for the safety, for the education, for the goods for everybody who are involved in the at school, mainly for the kids, because they need our protection. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Michelle Madisu, you are up next, and you'll be followed by Connor Madisu.
Good morning. This is really neat that we get to have public comments here. And I was just, I am a graduate of a Duval County school back in the 80s. And I was looking at the superintendents up there, and there was 11 superintendents.
Can you take your name for the record one more time? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Michelle Madisu. I am a graduate of Duval County School back in 1982. I was looking at the superintendent signs, and there's 11 that have come since this time. And I remember back in the day when the superintendent would come with his staff and his entourage to our high school, it was like students knew there was an authority and a weight on who they were and why they were there. And the principals and the assistant principal, or the vice principals back then, carried a certain authority in the schools. And the things that have been allowed to take place in the public schools all over the United States, and by the way, I've lived in a lot of places. I was a Navy kid. We moved here in '74, and I'd already been to 4 elementary schools by the time we got here. And I never felt unsafe in a school, ever. And we were educated in math and reading and history, and it was a lot of fun. School was fun. And seeing what's going on with having a family member who's in Douglas Anderson and what has taken place, a lot of the things that have taken place now it didn't exist when I was in school. So I really pray and hope that when you all consider the next superintendent, that it won't be someone with propaganda or agendas that are taking place in California and Virginia. We lived in Virginia for 16 years. My kids were schooled in public schools in Virginia. And actually where we were, it was sought after. And now I'm watching the decline. I still have lots of friends there. And the fight is on with propaganda that's going on in Virginia Beach schools. And Loudoun County was hot and heavy with what took place there. And I don't think that students should have to worry about when they go to school, worry about the social and societal agendas that are going on. They need to be taught and educated because they are our future. So that is a responsibility when you all vote, is who is going to protect the kids so that they are learning the things that are going to make them successful citizens in the United States. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Connor Madisu, you are up next, and you will be followed by Kathleen Pereira.
Good morning. My name is Connor Madisu, and thank you all for what you do, and thank you for this time. I appreciate it. As an educator here in Duval County, I work for a small private school. I don't necessarily have an answer to this, but it is a question that I want to pose to all of you, which is I have a lot of interactions with students and with parents being at the small private school, and I get a lot of, why did you leave public school? And so that is a question that I just posed to all of you, which is why do we have here in Duval County a lot of people leaving public schools to go seek either private or charter schools? And that is a question that our new superintendent will need to grapple with as soon as they come in and start on, I think it's July 1st. So not a lot of time to prepare from July to the start of the school year in August. And how can we reestablish why that is, and look at it and analyze it for what it is, analyze the data, and actually go there and ask people, why are you leaving public school? Where did the distrust happen to where people no longer have that trust to put people in public schools? And so I think, someone with experience in Florida, like Dr. Bernier, I think could be a valuable asset to this area. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Ms. Pereira, you may approach, and you will be followed by Carlos Pereira.
Good morning. My name is Kathleen Pereira, and you all know that I'm very, very concerned about the needs of our schools because my children have been in public schools in Duval County, and I also was employed for a while for Duval County, so I have a very big interest in how everything happens here today. So before you vote on the superintendent, please ask yourself these questions. Do you want someone who has already done his homework about Duval County schools and is now ready to address the major concerns about safety, the budget, and accurate reporting? Do you want someone who can also understand the challenges of Florida schools because he has actually worked in the Florida schools? In other words, he has standing in Florida and Florida schools and the interests of Florida schools. Do you want to give more opportunities and options for students to graduate? If you answer yes to these questions, then be united in electing Dr. Bernier as superintendent. If you vote otherwise, you will get a superintendent who proudly aligns himself with a questionable ideology and based on his past uninformed answers is not prepared to take on this tremendous task that will directly affect our children. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is Carlos Pereira, and he will be followed by Sherry Goddard.
Good morning. My name is Carlos Pereira. The selection of the superintendent of schools for Duval County should be a no-brainer. You have two candidates left, and one of them, Daniel Smith, is running on or seeking the position on the basis that he is politically correct and also multiculturally correct. On the other hand, Dr. Bernier is a man who has a really impressive record of running schools, school systems. I mean, what more is there to know than the fact that one man actually has done a very good job and has done it within the parameters of not offending the parents' beliefs, of not trying to take over the parents' role in rearing their children. He has focused on being able to provide safe schooling and good schooling, not propaganda. So I urge you to choose Dr. Bernier and to show the door to Mr. Smith. I think you'll be very, very sorry if you decide otherwise. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Sherry Goddard, you are next, and you'll be followed by Lori Crunden.
Good morning. My name is Sherry Goddard. I just want to thank you for allowing the public to speak on this very important decision. I was once a Duval County public school teacher. I had 4 children that graduated from Duval County. I have 3 grandchildren that are now attending Duval County Public Schools. So I have a lot of weight, and I feel like this is a very important decision. I'm here to support Dr. Christopher Bernier for the superintendent position. Dr. Bernier has an excellent resume, and comparing it to Dr. Smith's, it's apparent that he is more qualified to lead Duval County. One of his many goals is to keep schools safe and improve the quality of student achievement. His work in just about every position in the Florida school system gives him less of a learning curve and an advantage in addressing important issues quickly. Dr. Bernier plans to prioritize school safety, and I say bravo after the year we've had with safety and underreporting. He's done his homework by reading the grand jury report on school safety and is aware of the reporting issues with DCPS. He's had firsthand experience working with school police reporting in Clark County, Nevada. Schools have 2 critical jobs, and that is to teach children in a safe environment, and Dr. Bernier is passionate about this and was quoted as saying, "Children cannot learn without feeling safe." Dr. Bernier is personable and ready to learn from stakeholders about the changes that must be made within DCPS. A good leader listens and learns, and Dr. Bernier will be successful because of his desire to listen and learn. Duval County School needs a strong leader with extensive experience, and Dr. Bernier is the man for the job. Thank you.
Thank you. Lori Crunden, you're next, and you'll be followed by James Crunden.
Good morning. My name is Lori Crunden. And as you consider the qualifications and integrity of the two candidates, I would like to point out a few observations. During Daniel Smith's interview on May 13th at the meet and greet, he focused on his progressive ideas, which are more in line with DEI and pandering to the small minority that are more concerned with pronouns than they are with a solid traditional education, instilling moral values into our precious children. They are the future leaders of our country. I spent some time looking at the record of the previous superintendent, Dr. Green, and I realized that her progressive ideas are what got us into the position we are in today. Among multiple mishaps, the mismanagement of funds sticks out a lot. I would be remiss if I didn't mention her involvement with school safety, which was not only on the back burner, but it was being suppressed. Dr. Christopher Bernier is a clear, solid choice for DCPS. He has a proven record, a strong stance on school safety and crime reporting. Dr. Bernier is very familiar with the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Commission. He knows what he is walking into, and he already has a plan in place. He understands the implications of school safety and that it is a hindrance to children if they do not feel safe. Dr. Bernier won an award in Lee County for discipline revisions. During the interview at the meet and greet, among his many achievements, he also received that award. He was quoted as saying, "Discipline is the way we behave when no one is looking. Disciplined lives lead to better outcomes." Dr. Bernier also understands how to deal with budgetary concerns, which is paramount to our current state. He encountered similar budgetary issues in Lee County. I strongly urge you to cast your vote for Dr. Christopher Bernier.
Thank you. Next is James Crunden, and our last speaker of the day will be Kathleen Murray.
Thank you. Thanks for the time. I would sincerely give you my thanks and approval for opening this up to public comment. I appreciate you, and I appreciate the fact that I think the majority of you have your hearts in the right place, and the children are the most important thing. I'm James Crunden. I'm the faith leader for CDF, Citizens Defending Freedom. And I would just touch on the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is understanding, Proverbs 9:10. And one more verse, and I promise I'll get out of the Bible because I know that could be construed as hate speech soon. Nehemiah said, "The joy of the Lord is our strength." So just to touch on fear and strength, how do we want to be remembered? Do we see the things in front of us, and do we pick integrity, and not that anyone's perfect, and let he without sin throw the first stone, but do we look for the most common sense, the most integrity? We've seen in the past, in just the short few years I've come to these meetings, things that work. We've seen principals that walk around their schools and they take account of what's going on in there. That clear conscience being a soft pillow thing, some of the basics and the wonderful things that we've seen to turn our back on, and what's now politically correct, or that, oh, that could be construed in the wrong way if I took that route. Let's think about the children 100%. I promise, I'm almost done. I started to go through the definition for the noun wisdom, and I thought, no, you guys know what that is. And I started to look up the definition of the word morality, and I thought, no, you know what that is. Then I looked at integrity, and I thought, surely I don't need to recite what the definition of integrity is. And then I thought, well, one's actions and integrity can stand against opposition and hypocrisy. And then I thought, well, let me look up the word of complacency, the definition of that, or weak, or misguided, or arrogant, or condescending. What does it look like when I'm in a failed system and I'm afraid to say something? I promise I won't reference the Bible and what it says about that. Do I want to be remembered as courageous and God-fearing and on fire for the Lord and not caring what man thinks about me, but what the man thinks about me? Yeah, that's what I want. What do I want for my kids? My grandkids went through La Villa and Douglas Anderson and could have been subjected to some of the nasty things that went on. I don't know. They turned out okay. From the bottom of my heart, I'm not being paid to be here. Some are. I'm here because I love the kids and I love the Lord. And I want to see it turn out good. I would go for Dr. Bernier, and it wouldn't even be a meeting. Thank you.
And our final speaker this morning is Kathleen Murray.
Good morning. Kathleen Murray, Duval County Executive Director for Citizens Defending Freedom. As a product of the Broward County Public Schools, I am fully aware of the value of public school education. And as a mother of 4, I know that when a parent sends a child to school, implicit is the understanding that their child will be safe. For if a child is not safe from sexual predators or anyone else who would do them harm, how could they possibly learn how to read or master skills expected by students? Yet this past year, DCPS has made headlines for failure to report sexual misconduct by teachers and the underreporting of crimes. This past month has seen 2 teachers, 2 DCPS police officers, and a security guard arrested. Adding to the concern of safety, parents now worry that their beloved neighborhood schools will be closed due to a shrinking budget and declining enrollment. Declining enrollment, which is due in part to concerns about student safety. If there is one thing that I learned from 24 years of naval service, it is that serious problems require a serious leadership. And as leaders, all of you are aware that a strong administrator is not synonymous with a strong leader. The board has done well by identifying a candidate that is both a seasoned administrator and a proven leader. That man is Christopher Bernier. He has served a large and diverse school districts both in and out of the state of Florida and knows full well the challenges we face in Duval. Finally, 2 months ago, I notified the superintendent and a board member of another serious safety issue, and I respectfully asked for a response to my calls and emails. This week, I sent emails to over 700 members of Duval CDF with the links from DCPS's website with information about the candidates, and I thank you for doing a great job of putting that information out. I did not tell them who to support. Rather, last night, I sent one final email asking them to join me in prayer for all of you to prayerfully discern the correct candidate for selection as Duval superintendent. This isn't about partisan politics. This isn't about agendas. This is about doing what is right for the children of Duval. And I trust that you will all take that as seriously as your constituents took it when they voted you all in office. Thank you again for doing a great job of putting Mr. Bernier as one of the finalists, and thank you again for putting such great information out for us to best evaluate the candidates. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for everyone who came in and gave public comment on today. And of course, we have this opportunity today to hear public comment, but we've been receiving public comment throughout this whole process. So we appreciate everyone who sent emails, phone calls, in-person conversations, because it's all helpful to add to this decision that we as a board have to make up here today. So I just want to thank you for not just the public comment today, but all of the public who's weighed in on helping us make this decision on today. So we'll move on to the crux of the matter, our discussion, and I'll actually have Dr. Krisner's not here. She is actually at a graduation this morning. That's why you see her not here, but I'll have Mr. Corey Wright go ahead and read the recommendation, and then we'll move on into our discussion.
Selection of the candidate for superintendent of schools. That the school board select a superintendent and authorize contract negotiations to begin, led by Chair Willie and Office of General Counsel Attorney Poole.
All right, that is the recommendation. What we provided, or what FSBA has provided to the board members up here, is sort of a path on how we can sort of have this discussion. Of course, we as a board can kind of create our own path, but this is a good way to sort of start, and we'll start with this, and then we'll move whichever direction we see going. What it does is it gives us all an opportunity to sort of weigh in and give some initial thoughts, and then we kind of have rounds, and then we can offer motions afterwards. So I just hope to get as much information out, because we've been collecting a lot of information, and now folks are wondering how we're thinking about this. So that's how we'll start. We'll begin the process with our discussion with that. So start with one round for each school board member speaking, and then we'll follow that with second and third rounds if needed, and then comments if needed afterwards as well. I'm going to ask folks to sort of limit their comments. I don't even have to tell this group we're not that kind of board, but we'll make sure we give enough space for everyone to sort of have their comments. So we'll start with round one, if anybody wants to begin, and then we'll kind of go from there. starting first. Board Member Pearson.
I want to start out by saying thank you to the original group of 21 candidates who put in their resumes and applications to be considered, to the 6 semifinalists, and then to our 2 finalists, Dr. Smith and Dr. Bernier, who came and visited our community and our schools and sat with us and sat with community panels and did a meet and greet at a football stadium and went through the whole process. I also want to say thank you to our consultants from Florida School Board Association who have been with us every step in both parts, Part A and Part B of this process. To our staff who did a tremendous amount of behind-the-scenes work, putting together the 2 days of interviews and also our meetings. And then lastly, to the community. If nothing else, I think the candidates have seen that our community is engaged, and we had more than 600 comments for each candidate, and hundreds, I didn't count, but hundreds of emails that have come through in the past few weeks. So I wanted to explain a little bit about my process and where I am in this before, I think on the next round we'll start talking about our preferences. So my process has been to go through all of the information in the packets that we received from the initial to the semifinalist to the finalist. We've had interviews with the candidates in group and one-on-one, and I do read my email and reply only if it's a thank you, to let you know that I did read your email that you sent, because I feel like if you take the time to send an email to me, then I'm going to take the time to read it and let you know that I've read it. And from those emails, I saw some common themes and some of the information and the talking points, because honestly, some of them were form emails, like, that. I saw some common themes and talking points that didn't line up with what I heard in the interviews that we had, the group interview and also the individual. So I followed up with both candidates just to verify that, to give them a chance to address what I think was some misinformation in the talking points that was circulating about both of them. And so I did have a follow-up phone call with both candidates over the past 2 days. And then I undergird everything I do in prayer. And so I've spent a fair amount of time praying about what we need in Duval County for this time and who the best person is for that. And it's interesting to me that as I have been praying about this, really what's bubbled up in my soul is a heavy heart over the amount of disunity we have in our community. This has been another example of a hard thing that our board has had to do, and it has just really amplified that we have a lot of disunity in our community. And I hope that regardless of which candidate is chosen, because I honestly think either man could do the job, and I would be happy to work with either person. I think we have come down to 2 qualified candidates. But regardless of which candidate is selected, I would really urge the community to give this person space to work and be for them. And I feel like we're pretty divided 50-50 on the emails that I've read. Again, so there will be half of the people who are disappointed with the vote, however the vote goes today. I realize that. But really urge the community to work with our new superintendent to give this person time without making assumptions, and to really be for, many people have said it, but be for our children and be for our schools, because that really is what we're here about, and that is the reason we're picking a leader is to lead our schools, to drive success for our students and for our community. So again, urging everyone to keep an open mind in the process and an open heart as we go through the process.
Thank you, Board Member Pearson. Anybody like to go next? Board Member
So
Jones.
I'll join in too. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Selecting a superintendent is probably the most important decision we'll make in this time on the school board. For Dr. Hershey and I, this is our fourth selection of a superintendent. Fifth, thank you. And I've always done it with prayer, thoughtfulness, and trying to make the best decision based on the information that we're given. I'm grateful for the many citizens who took time to fill out the survey, for those who took time to come and meet with us, who participated in the meet and greet at the stadium, for FSBA, for their guidance and direction, and their professionalism and wisdom in this process, experience in this process, because we don't do this every day. The sad reality is that we are a divided community. The sad reality is that whoever we pick, on average, that superintendent will only be here for 4 or 5 years. The sad reality is that if it's a black female, they'll only be here for 3 years. Those are realities. That in large school districts, superintendents don't last that long. No matter how effective they are, there are so many minefields that they have to navigate through. And I just hope and pray that we can select the person that's best suited to lead this district into the next 4 or 5 years. I think we have 2 outstanding candidates. I think the process was open, transparent. I'm just thankful that we did pause the search and we have narrowed it down to 2 candidates that I think will lead this district with transparency, with a focus on safety, with a focus on competing with those charter schools that are robbing students from the district. I know that both candidates have seen and heard some of the chatter on social media. They watch that. They see what's happening in Duval County. And I hope and pray that the person that's selected can bring some unity, can unite this community. It's a tall task. I think both are focused on safety. I think both are dedicated to competing with the charter schools. I think both are concerned with the school closure process and how we go about that, and consolidating our schools. So I look forward to talking about some of the qualities that each bring to the table and how best those would fit with the mission of this board.
Thank you for that. Dr. Coker?
So I'm not going to be duplicative. I totally echo the sentiments of both of you all in terms of community interest in this, in terms of the feedback, in terms of those participating in the process. I want to also just say thank you to the community at large, though, too, because engagement in the process, I found it happening like in the produce section at Publix. Truly. I was taking my garbage out last week and 3 neighbors that were walking, hey, by the way. And so I say thank you to the broader community as well, because people are following this. And I think people are following this because in the end, we care about the youth of our city. And so it has been a reminder of that to me. I do want to make sure I also speak to the partisan politics. I completely concur with my colleague, Board Member Pearson, in that it appears half our community is in one space and half our community is in another. And I employ all that are engaged in this process, all that care about children, because in the end, 100% of people engaged in this care about children. We may come at it in a different direction, but that we get behind whoever ends up being selected today. And I will say, in terms of my process, I was grateful to have 2 candidates in particular that when I went to make a list of strengths, the lists were long for both. These are high caliber candidates. And we in Duval County are lucky to have 2 really strong candidates that we're taking a look at this time. And in the end, those that know me know that I've spent 30 years of my life in Duval County Public Schools, and I'm going to work to make the right decision for children of Duval County every day of the week. And the politics have to step aside because that's not where children are. That being said, there were a number of thank yous that were said, and I won't be duplicative of that. Board Member Pearson did a great job in terms of covering those, but I also want to make sure today that we very vocally thank Dr. Dana Krisner for stepping in. But for a moment such as this, she has, I've worked with her for decades. She is Duval County true and true. She cares about this place, believes in this place. There's not a political bone in her body. She just wants to do right by the children she serves. And everyone in our community should be grateful for her taking this moment and doing it in the manner with the grace and the dignity she has done it. I will also say, having been with the district, I have been at high-level leadership during these transition moments. It is not lost upon me how hard it is during these times for high-level district leadership. Please know that we are grateful for all you have done to keep the district moving forward during a transitional period. We are very fortunate to have incredibly high-caliber leaders in our district who make things happen every single day for our students. And so in the end, I just say thank you for the fact that we have these two high caliber candidates. And again, I ask that people put aside the partisan politics and whoever we end up selecting, that they get behind them, because in the end, it's all about our children.
Thank you so much, Dr. Coker. Others want to speak on that? Wait, Board Member Carney.
Again, not to be duplicative. But that's what happens when you don't get to go first or second. But no, I just wanted to, again, thank the community. I cannot say enough, especially for what, we had the Fletcher Community Engagement meeting the other night, and I'm so grateful to represent a community that cares about public education and that cares about the future of Duval County. And so I just, again, would like to thank everyone that has engaged in this process. And I'm in agreement. We had an opportunity to get to know two wonderfully qualified candidates, and I appreciate their candor and I appreciate their transparency with us about their intentions should they come to Duval County. So I just, again, thank you to FSBA. You made this process seamless for us, and unlike Dr. Hershey and Mr. Jones, some of us on the board have never done this before, so it's been a wonderful process working with you, so thank you. And again, I know that this board, the 7 of us, we truly care about the future of Jacksonville, and we truly care about working for children and for children only. And so again, I will stress that this is not about partisan politics. This is about driving our district forward and making Duval County Public Schools the place to come to get an exemplary education that will make you a productive, thoughtful, and kind member of society. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Board Member Carney. Seems like this round one, it seems more of a how you are sort of reacting to the process, which I appreciate. And I think it'll allow us to sort of have that sort of foundation. So if that's how folks want to move, you don't have to, but that seems the way it's moving. Other board members, Vice Chair, or Dr. Hershey.
No, you go first.
I agree with so much that has been said, and I do have to correct, Board Member Jones was right. It's our 4th search, but our 5th superintendent since we've been in, and we're both in our 8th year, so you can do the math on that one. So having said that, I do want to again underscore the appreciation for the community input and the strong support of engagement with the city in this process. And so many members on the board have already said this, but at the end of the day, just like whatever vote is taken within the next few minutes, the board is going to have to come together and work with the superintendent. And I am asking the community, no matter which side of the fence you're on or who you support or who you're cheering for right now, that after the vote, that you will choose to rally around and support and cheer on whomever is selected. Duval County is the second largest employer in the city. That's a huge amount of responsibility. And we need to be encouraging our superintendent. We need to be lifting the superintendent up in prayer, and we need to be working together to support, always give input, but that community support and working together and not being divided is very important. I'd also like to underscore that living in the wonderful Sunshine State, this process for superintendent selection is extremely difficult. So many other boards are able to go through this process and this interview process really behind closed doors. And they will engage the community, but that's not all public and transparent. And this is a very difficult process. And again, just want to underscore, it's the fact that both of these men have stayed in the ring and continue to be interested is very important when I feel as a community we've kind of beat them up and bloodied them up before they've even started. And that's not just social media, that's our news outlets, it's across the board, it's conversations, and we really need to come together and identify strengths that will move this district forward. And, I do want to wrap up by saying that I appreciate the leadership of FSBA. I had some people say, well, it's not a national search firm. I said, well, Florida School Board Association is known nationally, and when you do a search, it is a national search, and you don't have to be a company located in a state in the Midwest or somewhere to be a national search company. So I think that they have risen to the challenge and led us through an exemplary process that I do believe will lead us to land the right candidate. And the last thing I will say is that working with Dr. Krisner has been an absolute pleasure. And many of you know that it has been written, and the greatest of these is love. And I think that when you look at Dr. Krisner, she does so much work. She does it with love and she does it with joy, and that's evident. And I think that's why her stepping in and filling the role at this time has been so beneficial and healing for our community.
Appreciate that. Vice Chair Joyce?
Well, my
Took all your
colleagues,
words.
my colleagues on the board have pretty much said it all. I echo everything that has been said up here in relation to the community input and all of the hard work from FSBA, Dr. Krisner, just leading us this last year. I think that one of the other pieces that I want to, or another person that I want to thank is Chair Willie for leading us through this process. You've done a fantastic job. And even when you're in the car, speaking to the media in your T-shirt, you've represented us well through this.
I didn't know I was on video. I did not know.
You told me that, yeah. I don't believe you. No, I'm just kidding. No, I do want to thank the candidates for applying. This process is brutal. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of time commitment. And, as board member Hershey said, you're going to be run through the ringer. It's just the nature of the beast, especially here in Florida. And so I do want to thank all of the applicants for putting your name in the hat and for going through the process. I think it's just very great that you did that. I'm going to just cut to the chase, though, and I'm going to just sort of dive into some of the things that kind of rose to the top for me.
For each candidate?
So, well, just to kind of get started, if that's okay? Or you want to...
Yeah, let me chime in, and then that'll end round one, and then we'll start round two. So, I appreciate all the sentiment here. Once again, thank you to the Florida School Board Association. Andrew and I have been working, of course, really closely since I'm the chair, but it's just been a process that's been very smooth and very open and transparent. And I really do want to appreciate the public, too. It has been great to sort of get a sense of where folks are and what they're thinking. Because at the end of the day, this superintendent is going to have to come into this landscape and appeal to every single person, whether they were raised their hand for them or not. So when I thought about this process for me, the way that I entered it was I wanted to be able to leave leave interviews and leave this seat up here with the confidence that the person can do the job and make sure the questions that I had throughout the process were answered. So that's how I entered in. And I leaned on a lot of things. Of course, my own judgment, because I have a different vantage point. We have a very different vantage point than any other person that's giving us input, because we see it, we're in it. But also leaning on the focus group, leaning on the input that we got from the questions and answers, but also leaning on two other groups, elders and our youth. We have elders in this community who are involved in the focus group, I've been on the phone with, and youth too have been in the focus group, and I've been on the phone with, and there was even a youth group who did their own research and sent letters to us. So, and I just really appreciate having both those perspectives, because at the end of the day, those perspectives are going to be important for this person to come in. The other thing that I know about education and educators is there are always moments of grace. We know that as teachers, of course, you hear about a student before they get in your class, but at the end of the day, you understand that you can't make all those assumptions. Yes, but when they get in your class, you have to make sure that you welcome and you give them everything that you have. And folks have already said it, we have to do that with this next person, whoever it is, because there's going to be one faction or one group is like, that wasn't the person who I wanted. Yes, but at the end of the day, what we ultimately want is our students to be successful. And if we do not support and put wind in the back of whoever this person is, that's not going to happen at the scale that we want. So that's how I went through the process, and it's been a process for sure. Because like many have said, these are two great candidates that will come in with very different styles and approaches, but could equally do the job. So now we have to decide as a group who's going to be the best for right now to lead us in our district. So I will now turn it back to Vice Chair, because I think you were ready to go. Since you went last this time, it's perfect that you go first. So now we're on to sort of a round two, and I think now we'll sort of dive into these discussions around specifics around what you saw, heard, and how you're sort of feeling. So Vice Chair?
Okay. For me, when I approach the working through the strengths and the weaknesses of each candidate, for me, three things rose to the top as far as challenges and needs of our community at this point. And that is, operations with our master facility plan, contract management. We have an opportunity to save a lot of money there, transportation issues that we had. Human resources, obviously, we've had some issues with reporting and, some areas that are challenging and concerning around that. And then, obviously, what is so important all the time is a student achievement. And when I looked at the opportunity to have a candidate or have a superintendent, I did look at the experience of that person. And so with Dr. Bernier, notably, he has served in a cabinet level leadership position for the last 13 and a half years. I also really wanted to look at where he served and what kind of students was he serving. And so I looked at Orange County. I think that's where he started. In Orange County on the cabinet level position. Orange County is the 9th largest district in the United States of America, serves over 200,000 students, has 25,000 employees, and the economically disadvantaged percent there is 65%. And then when I looked at Clark County, again, over 300,000 students, over 40,000 employees, and the economically disadvantaged students there were 59%. And in Lee County, the same thing, around 100,000, same as our district, 13,000 employees. But surprisingly, this was a number for me that was very surprising, the economically disadvantaged population there is 77%. And in Duval County, ours is right around 72%. And so I really felt that I needed someone that could come in and actually understand that group of students, that population, and really has experience doing the work. Because at the end of the day, our goal as a board is for our district to be an A district, and you have to have experience in that kind of work. And then when I looked at Loudoun County, it was, I think the economically disadvantaged percentage there was like 24% or something. And so that is important to me. And so I just want to put that out. That's really where I started. And then looking at the experience and what ideas are great. We want ideas, we want fresh ideas, we want people to come in with a new set of eyes, but at the end of the day, that cabinet level experience and already dealing with some of the issues that we're facing now, I thought, there were some things that just jumped out at me with Dr. Bernier, and that is not just his leadership in state and out of state, but his proven ability to rebuild enrollment plans and creative solutions for getting students back in the district. He's done that work. It was documented. Looking through contracts and deliverables on contracts, he'd proven that he had done that work. And then with the human resources piece. So working and looking at all of that, I just felt like there was just a lot of experience in this bucket with Dr. Bernier, a lot of similarities in the student population, the students that we're serving, and with Dr. Smith, obviously, so much experience in the classroom. Just recently, 2 years ago, coming out of the school principalship, that's very, very important. Did a lot of work, great work as a principal. So lots of good accolades there. But for me, and I'm just going to close, I know we're going to continue to have conversation, but for me, that inexperience of just cabinet level, 2.5 years, not really having a lot of depth and really proven solutions to problems that we're facing now. The Dr. Bernier just rose to the top because I felt like he was just more able to come in and handle the challenges we're facing right now. So I know we're going to keep talking, but that's where I am.
No, thank you for that. Thank you for leading us in that. Dr. Hershey.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments, Vice Chair Joyce. It's obvious that we have a lot of tough issues to tackle in our community, and I actually reached out to and was able to have a conversation with the current chair in Loudoun County, Virginia. Also spoke with a board member in Lee County, and then was even able to have conversation with a couple of community members in both places. And I mention that only to say that in their communities, at least the people I spoke to, both candidates are respected and liked and celebrated for their respective strengths. That came across very clearly to me in conversations. Nonetheless, I will say some of the things that impressed me with Dr. Bernier is his ability to literally rebuild a school district after a disaster. And what struck me in doing my research on him was that there had been a hurricane in Tallahassee earlier, and so he called Tallahassee and said what worked and what didn't work. So when he didn't know the answers and he found himself in a unique situation, he reached out to somebody who had been there before and got input, and he did a stellar job. And that's really, I think that's impressive. So when we don't know the answer, we reach out to somebody who's been there before. The other thing is the proven ability to drive change. And I found it very interesting in going through the feedback from community and looking at the great support and strength for Dr. Bernier from the English language learner community, or the people who were here in Jacksonville and English is not their first language. Great support with him. I was impressed with his ability to secure national grants. And the other thing, too, I just want to point out, again, we heard from Vice Chair Joyce about leadership in Orange County, and Dr. Barbara Jenkins is a superintendent that I am a huge fan of. She is a past superintendent for Orange County and has also led at the national level. And had she not retired and be enjoying her grandchild, she was one that would have really been a good candidate for Duval County as well. And looking at her strong recommendation gave me a lot of faith because I know Dr. Jenkins and so am so impressed with her work. And so having said that, I would support Dr. Bernier as our next superintendent.
Thank you, Dr. Hershey. Round 2. Go ahead. Board Member Carney.
Yes, thank you. Thank you to Vice Chair Joyce and Dr. Hershey for your feedback. I, too, came at this looking at the difference between Florida schools versus Virginia schools and the delta between those two. I also looked up the demographics of Dr. Bernier's past positions and also looked up the demographics of Loudoun County. And, Loudoun County only has a 7% African American community and 5% Hispanic. Very different from Lee and Duval County. I had an opportunity to have an extensive conversation with the Lee County Board Chair, Sam Fisher. Got some great feedback from him. I'm looking for somebody that not only has the qualifications and proven results, but somebody that can build bridges in our divisive community. And I look at the letter that we received from the NAACP for Dr. Bernier, and I was extremely impressed with their unwavering support for him. Something that the board chair from Lee County told me is that over the last year, Dr. Bernier has fought to build a new community school in Fort Myers in the largest black community. And that's going to be opening in August, and it's been partnered with United Way and the local hospital in Fort Myers. So not only are they going to be providing an exemplary academic space for these kids, but they're also going to be providing health services and support for that community, and that spoke volumes to me. That shows me that somebody that's really interested in building bridges in our diverse community. He also started a committee for the English language learners in Lee County, and that's another community that has spoke volumes in the community feedback for Dr. Bernier. I did also get some feedback from Loudoun County parents, and it seems to me that they're kind of where we were a couple of years ago in regards to parental rights and in regards to student safety, particularly in our restrooms. And so I have a lot of concerns about a board and people in leadership in Loudoun County that are ignoring recommendations from their governor when it comes to safety in bathrooms for our female students. So that's a concern for me. I have concerns about Title IX and where Title IX is heading on the federal level. As a mother of 2 daughters, I want to protect girls' sports. I believe that they should earn scholarships and not have to compete against biological men. So that's an issue for me too as well. But at the end of the day, the time that I spent with Dr. Bernier talking about school safety and how we cannot have a productive learning environment without our children feeling safe, his ability to get through Hurricane Ian, his ability to know the construction process, he knows how to rebuild a school, he knows how to build a school efficiently, helps us with the master facilities plan. The Carnegie designation that Lee County has been awarded speaks volumes to me as well. Hiring 650 teachers and being able to retain those teachers since he's been there. And knowledge of the Florida standards, knowledge of how it works here in Florida, somebody that requires minimal onboarding that will be able to come in July 1st, hit the ground running, and be able to tackle the issues that this district faces. So for me, I enjoyed both of my conversations with both candidates, but I truly believe that the most qualified candidate with proven results would be Dr. Bernier.
Thank you, Board Member Carney. Anyone would like to dive in? Dr. Coker.
So great dialogue as always, and I will say I think I approached this sort of similarly to Vice Chair Joyce, in that I looked at where are our issues in terms of what are our priorities, academics, operational items, looking at school closures, looking at the budgetary items that we're now facing that have not been addressed the last few years. And tried to think it through from those terms. And again, as I said in my first comment, my list for both was long. For Bernier, quite honestly, the work that he did after Hurricane Ian, it stands for itself. It is. And I had the privilege of talking to some people that work in the school district that talked about just his incredible work ethic, but just also his care and compassion for people during that time. That's a very human moment as well. I do think that some of that rebuilding translates to bringing some skills as it relates to our 15-year facilities plan. He was intriguing, and my one-on-one, I had some conversation about some of the rezoning pieces that he did in terms of trying to assist with rebuilding enrollments, but also saving on transportation costs. And we know our transportation costs, that we're providing more transportation than the state requires us and to provide, and we've got to look at that if we're going to get back to making sure we hold on to staff in the manner in which we need to. And so there was that piece of the puzzle. There is a reality, and again, having been with Duval County for 30 years, knowledge of the work in Florida is very specific, whether it's FSA work, whether it's standards work, whether it's FEFP, whether it's FTE, the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Commission. There's no question that I know, having had oversight of grad rate at one point in my life, that the metrics behind that, there's a reason you don't give one person all the metrics on the school accountability chart, because it's so specific by cell. And so, knowledge of those areas is important. So there were many positives there. I will also say, though, I'm the data nerd. Everybody knows that. People are smiling at me right now because they know I'm the data nerd. And I went in and looked at the data. And what I will say is that, and not just FSA data, I went into progress monitoring data. I went a little deeper than that, knowing that our districts are pretty comparable. Even our prior superintendent at times said, this is a district that's comparable. Lee is a district that's comparable. What I found was that they did outpace us a touch. That's there. I did see that. But I'm going to say they outpaced us some, no question. But is this board wanting someone that can somewhat outpace? It wasn't the massive difference, And so I do say that to this board, that clearly that Bernier has outpaced us, but has he made it completely in a different category? That's not happened, and I'm just giving the analysis. So that made me question a little bit. I will say I moved to Smith. Oversight of a $1.7 billion budget. Very comparable to ours. There's no question about that. When you meet with him, you cannot mistake the visionary piece. I mean, he is a visionary, incredibly bright. Doctorate from University of Virginia. I mean, incredibly bright. I will say I picked up on the notion of a collaborative leader, no question. I felt like he was going to meet with everyone and work with whomever came his way to do the work with children. My big concern with Smith is the Florida way of work is so very specific. And our district is in such a space right now. I would love for us to have the luxury of a visionary. I would love that. I just don't know that right now we have the luxury of the time it would take to build the visionary person in terms of learning the Florida way of work. And so at this moment, but I'm always listening to my colleagues, I want to make sure I say that. Dr. Bernier seems like the right candidate for right now, given the space the district's in. But I want to make sure I say very publicly that Dr. Smith is beyond impressive. And if he knew the Florida way of work, this could be a totally different conversation. And he's the type of leader we need in Florida, in my opinion. But again, just when you talk about FSA, FEFP, FTE, I'm going to use all the acronyms for a reason to make the point of it's very specific work in Florida. And we have to move the needle in Duval. We can't sit still. And not just the needle in academics. We have budget issues. We have school closure issues. We have an issue with the 15-year facility plan. Things have not been addressed, and they've got to be addressed. We can't kick the can on these things any longer. So that's where I am in this moment, but I know I have 3 more colleagues, so I'm listening intently.
Board Member Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I enjoyed meeting and interviewing both candidates. I thought both were highly qualified and could do the job that we need done in Duval County. I felt that Dr. Smith had the unique advantage, and to Dr. Corker's point, a visionary. I think I see a brighter future for the district when I talk with him and hear him speak. I think he can move us academically better than Dr. Bernier. I think that he did a great job in rebuilding the confidence in that county after the issues they had in Loudoun County. I've talked to several people there who felt that he was a champion. He rebuilt the confidence that many people in that county had lost. I had concern with Dr. Bernier, and I told him that. I was concerned about his relationships with Tallahassee, and we talked candidly about that. And I was convinced, he brought in the letter from NAACP. I said, I've already read your letter. You sent that, you emailed that to us. He certainly has a lot of work to do. He's worked well with NAACP in that county. The diversity is certainly, he's had experience both in Orange and Clark County with diversity, a very diverse community. The letter from Dr. Jenkins, I thought, was telling. She was a former superintendent of the state for the state of Florida. I thought that spoke volumes for what he can do and his experience. No question he has the experience and to do the work. He has that onboarding here. He knows the Florida landscape. He knows the testing criteria that we have to use. He knows some of the politics you have to navigate through in the state of Florida. So I was really torn coming to this meeting, torn between the 2 candidates. One who I felt could better move us academically. The other one could address a wider range of issues that this district is confronting. The transportation issue, the school closure and consolidation issues. We have a large minority population in Duval County. Who best can address the concerns of this total district? Every child is important. Every student, whether they're gay, straight, minority, Hispanic, doesn't matter. Every student is important in this county. And I believe both candidates can address those needs. but based on experience and the conversations I've had with people who know both candidates, I believe that Bernier would be the right person at this point in time for Duval County.
Board Member Pearson?
Yeah, we really did go in reverse order. I think we did. So I've already stated that I think that either candidate could lead DCPS, and in my interactions with them, I would be happy to work with either candidate, and the follow-up phone calls that I had reinforced that I would be happy to work with either candidate. So the overarching question is what is best for students, what's best for our staff, what's best for families, our community. And then the second question for me has been, who's the best fit for Duval right now, where we are? And when I think about what our three main issues are, I think about student achievement. And we have some strategic plan metrics tied to that. One of them is moving up in the Big Seven. We are at the bottom of the Big Seven, moving up into the top of the Big Seven. Financial management, bringing our operational expenses in line with our revenue. And some of the other board members have talked about transportation and master facilities plan and some of the other components of that. And then the third is safety and discipline, and that's been mentioned as well. So as I looked at those three things and looked at the candidates and also looked at what I believe we are in a crossroads in Duval County right now, I've been weighing out immediate impact versus 3 to 5 years is kind of where I have been on this. And for the health of the district, where am I going to put the weight? Is it going to be on immediate impact, or is it going to be on 3 to 5 years? I've given an edge to experience within Florida, 2 Florida districts, and putting my weight on the immediate impact that I think Dr. Bernier can have as he comes into Duval County.
Thank you. So I'll give my thoughts, but I can also read the room and count. So I honestly, this is, I really appreciate this discussion, and that's what's difficult about being a board member in Florida and Sunshine, because I'm like, I wonder how Dr. Hershey's thinking, I wonder what Board Member Jones is going to say when he gets up here. And I appreciate that we all come from very different sort of perspectives when we approach it. I love the data perspective, I love some community perspective, and it's all valuable. And I think that when I looked at this too, I mentioned before the confidence in the questions, and I came out of this with confidence for each of them, honestly. High level of confidence for each of them. Questions that they answered during my one-on-one time with them, as many folks have, but also I knew one of my questions was around, as you approach, because I knew how this was going, as you approach it, how do you pull the other group of folks who maybe didn't want to see you in the role or wanted someone else in? And I think that was where it started to sort of go for me. And I'll go through my list because everybody else kind of did as well. So when I think about, of course, Dr. Bernier, the Florida experience, the 13 plus years, being superintendent for a couple of years, that stood out right away on paper. I did appreciate the diverse support. Like folks mentioned the NAACP, you had Barbara Jenkins, but you also had Manny Diaz, which from where I sit, that leans a different way. But I think that diversity of support is something to really take note of. Also, an executor, an operational, you had to look at that. When he had his examples, he was talking about how he executed an operational side of it. And those were key pieces. Flip over to Dr. Smith. You instantly, he spoke to and he showed his ability to collaborate. He talked about the different groups that he set up. He is an intellectual leader, and he has that expertise in that, also in instruction. Also his perspective. You think about where we are right now in Florida. Who do we need to come in? What does Duval County need? And I thought it could be a really fresh perspective. And he wore his heart on his sleeve. You could see that too. When he answered questions, when he was in the meet and greet, you could see that. And I think that was very apparent to me. So as I thought about this, I was like, they were close. Because here's what I also realized, like, though I have a certain group of folks that communicate to me, I also have facts and truth. And I think some of the things that were listed around, hey, this person is this and that, and it's like, well, I did my research like other people did. I called board members called me from the other areas to get real life information about is this how he shows up in your county or district? And much of what folks were debating about online wasn't even debatable. So then it really came down to these facts that we have right here. And for me, I'm leaning Smith. But I also see this board that's up here, and I also want to make sure the community sees us as unified as we do this. Because they're so close where I'm like, you know what? If we come together as a board and say, hey, we're going to do this together, we're going to push this person forward, it sends a signal. And we need a signal right now to sort of make sure we're on that same page. So it's where I am. I see where we are, and that's sort of where I am in this situation. So I appreciate this board. So that is now the end of round 2. So we're now on to whatever. We don't probably need a round 3. I see where we are, unless folks want to add other comments. Board Member Carney.
I'd like to make a motion.
Second. Oh, well.
Make the motion.
I just figured what it was.
Would you like to know what it is, Dr. Hershey?
Go ahead, I'll make the motion. Finish your motion.
And thank you to FSBA, because I'm going to read this from the script. I would like to make a motion that the school board offer the position of superintendent to Dr. Christopher Bernier and authorize contract negotiations to begin, led by Chair Willie and Attorney Poole.
It's been seconded.
It's been motioned by Board Member Carney, seconded by Dr. Hershey. Is there any discussion, final discussion here? We have a number of rounds. All right. I'll go ahead and call for your vote. Do we have it on in there? I think they're getting it set up for us. You do, okay.
I'm just going to
Dr.
give quick, are we going to have a moment to give a few parameters on the contract?
Yes, that's the.
I mean, I know it's listed there, making sure we're getting there. Okay.
Yes.
Also, so the public doesn't tune out if they're interested in the contract piece.
For sure. So after this vote, we will go into conversation on the contract. By our action, we have voted 7-0 to accept Christopher Bernier, Dr. Christopher Bernier, as the next superintendent here in Duval County. So congratulations, Dr. Bernier. We look forward to working with you. We're now on to step 3, which is the selected superintendent will need to satisfactorily complete all pre-employment processes and set forth DCPS and Florida statutes. Contract negotiations will begin. It is within the contract that a transition plan, starting date, and compensation package will be agreed upon. I want to give some time, couple more thoughts. Once a contract has been tentatively agreed upon, it will come before the school board for official and final approval, and transition plans will be made for transitioning with Dr. Krisnar, and assuming the responsibilities of the superintendent. I do want to get Ray Poole to chime in a little bit here, kind of as our counsel to make sure we're in the right posture as we move forward with any of these discussions.
Thank you, Chair Willie. And to the board, I sought the advice, the collective wisdom of our friends from the School Board Association, because despite my 30-plus years of practice, I've only negotiated a contract with one superintendent one time. So, and because of the Sunshine Law, it's all hurt, to say the least. The recommendation that I received, which makes perfect sense, is, and I want the public to know that the board was provided with a number of contracts from various superintendents throughout the state. And the idea was to give the board an idea, well, what are other people doing? And what are provisions that we may want to consider with respect to this contract? You also have the contracts that we've utilized most recently, as well as when we had a superintendent who moved from out of county. So you see what we have considered when a superintendent has moved into the county to take a position. The suggestion that I've received, and which makes perfect sense to me, is it may be a good idea, rather than, it's awkward at best because ordinarily when you negotiate a contract, you don't tell the other side what you're planning to do in advance. But the idea being, perhaps I could speak with each of you individually to get some feedback on some things that you would like have rolled in to the contract, and then we can work together that way, coordinate. I know, for example, there was, when it comes to evaluation component, that there were some things that we wanted to address. So,
Dr. Coker?
I just want to go on record as making sure I state that the contract that we've used for the past superintendents is a boilerplate, whatever. We have got to move away from it. We cannot afford that type of contract anymore. The type of severance pay we've paid in the past, we cannot afford. And I also want to make sure that I go on record as stating that it needs to be performance-based and tied to our strategic plan goals, which include reading movement, school grades, increasing soft skills readiness and CTE program effectiveness. These are all priorities of this board, and I want to make sure that we tie outcomes of those items into the contract as well.
and what I would suggest is you and I get together. I know that that is something that you've worked on in the past. And I guess to sort of illustrate my point, my wife went down to Tampa with my daughter yesterday to get her a car. And so, just things like a dollar amount, what's the range we're looking at, that kind of thing. I think it would be useful maybe to have individual conversations rather than play poker with the cards facing the wrong way, and so to handle it that way. So that would be my, and the other issue we will need to address is, and this will be something that will come up at the June meeting, is do you want to discuss the possibility of him coming early basically like a consulting basis, which I believe he did in Lee County, based on what I've seen. And what would that look like?
I appreciate that. Any other? Oh, is that a hand?
Well, I just wanted to say I appreciate your following up on that. I know that came up in the last meeting as it relates to some HR transactional pieces, and certainly getting his input through using him. If we're going to have a performance-based contract, then we need to make sure that the team makes sense and all that good stuff. So I appreciate you trying to figure out a way to make that happen.
I second that. Mr. Poole, is there a deadline to which we need to come to negotiations before we have a consultant? If he wants to come in as a consultant, that solid date and July 1st, is there a window in which we need to make a decision on?
Well, I think through the chair to Board Member Carney, I think we need to have that, a bow tied on that, the June board meeting.
Okay.
So it's, I'm going to have to move with great haste. Okay. But I don't anticipate, I don't think that that's going to be a big problem. But that would be, what it also means is I will be reaching out to all of y'all probably starting this afternoon to begin these discussions.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Hershey?
I was just going to say along those same lines, and to follow up with Dr. Coker, she mentioned personnel, but I also think as we were having these community conversations, presence, if nothing else, in the audience to hear feedback and to be a part of the way those community meetings are run, because that's going to be a passing of the baton, would be beneficial not only for the board and the community, but for the incoming superintendent to have been a part on some level, if nothing more than listening, to help with that conversation as well as we move forward with the conversations. But that's another reason for the MOU or
That's fair.
contract.
And I think it's all about, and I think that's why you're in this phase, to ask their willingness, what's their situation, to be able to do some of those things, and that's why we have the conversation. But I think having all those things laid out is going to be important. Any other thoughts on the contract piece? All right. In my script, or as we flow, there's a recess portion to be able to call and congratulate the new superintendent. So that is the point we're at now. We'd recess and call them and then reconvene the meeting. So I'm looking to, are you we're going to do a quick 5-minute recess where we'll have that call, and then will we be able to put them on, you think? Okay. We'll be able to have them say hello or something. All right, so we'll do a quick recess, and then we'll convene back. And then after that, really quick to give you the rest of the order, we don't have any other items. We'll adjourn, but then I know their press here. We'll go ahead and do another quick recess to let folks set up, and we'll do a quick sort of presser to allow the media and the community to hear from board members about the selection. So quick 5-minute recess. Thank you. Board members, we're going to go ahead and return really quick so we can get, we have Dr. Bernier on the phone, and then we'll adjourn the meeting, and then we'll allow some time to set up, and then we'll do a quick presser. All right, so we're back into the meeting, and we did that to be able to call. I had a short conversation with Dr. Bernier and just to congratulate him. He's very excited. He is now on the phone with us, so the first time as the superintendent, we have Dr. Bernier on the line. Dr. Bernier, can you hear us?
Yes, Chairman, I can.
Excellent. I want to just, once again, now that you're on the line, I want to say publicly congratulations on the vote. We're excited to have you here in Duval County. Student achievement is our paramount, and we truly believe that you're going to be able to help us do that and tackle some of our other complex challenges and turn them into opportunities. So I'll give it over to you to just say hello really quickly and give us your thoughts and feelings, and then we'll move out of the way.
Yes, sir. Good morning to the chairman and board members. First of all and foremost, thank you for this opportunity to continue the great work of working on behalf of students. I'm both humbled and excited about the future and working with you, our student, staff, and community to ensure that we continue to build the brightest future possible for our students and our community. So I'm deeply humbled and honored, and thank you very much again for the opportunity to hear from me.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Dr. Bernier. So as you were, I'm sure you were listening in, and we'll be working with, of course, your side and our side on the contractual pieces of it. So stay tuned there. But once again, congratulations to you, and we look forward to working with you as a full board.
Thank you, sir, and for your support. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. So now we don't have any other discussion items, so we'll go ahead and ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Coker, second by second by Board Member Pearson. All those in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, meeting adjourned. All right, we'll pause for a second. We'll set up a space for the media, and then we'll do a conversation. And board members, you'll have an opportunity